Hello, I'm Nadia Bilchik, and welcome to Career Cafe. This is the podcast that gives you advice and guidance on how to manage your career, both in terms of interpersonally as well as professionally. This is the podcast that's going to give you tips, tools, and techniques to take your career to the next level. Steve Berry is a rather prolific author. He has sold over 20 million copies of his books in over 51 countries. And I'm going to be talking to him about his latest book, which is called The Bishop's Pawn. And it really addresses the conspiracy theories around the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. It's an extraordinary read, and Steve Berry is an extraordinary individual. Steve Berry, welcome. It is a pleasure to have this moment with you. So we're talking about The Bishop's Pawn, and it's very timely because
this is the 50th anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King, and that's why I wrote the book for this year. I got the idea for the book about 10 years ago, but I held the idea to this year.
So really, there's so many conspiracy theories around the assassination of Martin Luther King. What did you learn in your research?
All the unanswered questions. There's a zillion of them. There's so many. It was the most uninvestigated murder of a public person in American history. The most telling unanswered question that has never been answered is why? Why was he killed? We have no clue. It's not as simple to say it was a race issue. No, actually it wasn't. It was much more complicated. But we'll never know the answer to that. My book postulates a why that'll surprise you.
It is a very surprising why, and we can't give it away, which is why I can't really ask him about the title of the book. But what I can ask you about is you speak about pitching in 3 minutes, one of the things you do in thrillers, writers, societies. And so if you were going to say to our viewers, what is the 3-minute pitch without giving the story
without
away
going 3 minutes.
For this book? Yes.
I would say that, that's a tough one. You stumped me a little bit with that one.
Remember, he's a writer.
What would be the 3 minute? Usually to put that 3-minute pitch together, it takes about 2 weeks to sit down and think about it. But I would say that what I just said, probably more than anything else, a thriller that postulates a shocking question, a shocking reason as to why Martin Luther King was killed. And it's based about 90% in fact.
So I know you research for many, many months, about 18 months before every book.
Yes.
So was it the same for this book?
Absolutely. And the problem with this book was there was so much. There's hundreds of books on this subject, but most of them postulate crazy, completely absurd theories, things that make no sense whatsoever. I had to weed through that and get to it. But there are so many unanswered questions, fascinating questions, that have never adequately been answered. You may not even know this, and I'm sure most people don't know this, but they were never able to prove that the rifle they found was the murder weapon because they couldn't match the slugs that came from Dr. King's body because the slug had disintegrated. So there's no way to prove it was the murder weapon.
So after all the research and the book, the theory that you've come up with, and you can only make sense of this once you've read the book,
yes, that's right.
is, do you really think it's plausible?
Well, that's hard to say because if I say no, you're going to say, why did I write the book? If I say yes, then you're going to say, what do I base it on? That's a tough question to answer. I think it makes sense with the facts that we know. It's not completely insane, given everything that was going on in Dr. King's life at the time. He was having a really hard time. The last year of his life was terrible. He was, depressed. He had all kinds of problems. He was losing credibility in the world. There's a lot going on in his life, and all of that put together. And then when you listen to the mountaintop speech on the night of April 3rd, the night before he died, if you listen to that entire speech, and don't listen to the last minute or two that we've all heard about going to the mountaintop and looking over, listen to the whole speech. It sounds exactly like a man who knows he's about to die. So, it's exactly, when you listen to it, you go, wow.
So what I suggest you all do is read the book. After you've read the book, come back to this interview. It'll make much more sense.
A lot more sense. Yeah.
So does.
We're dancing around because I don't want to give it away.
That's right.
Because I don't foreshadow the surprise. I don't hint to the surprise. I don't give you any indication of what the surprise is. It just happens.
Now, I do know the book is available everywhere from March 20th of the last month it was. And tell us where we can read more about you.
Read about me at my website, steveberry.org. Everything's there with all the other novels, all the Cotton Malone books, the standalones, and our History Matters Foundation. It's all there.
And a little known fact, Steve was a trial attorney for more than 30 years before he became an author. So to hear more about that, you are going to have to go onto his website, and definitely Bishop's Pawn. It's a good read.
Thank you.
You are welcome to join us here at Career Cafe. I'm Nadia Bilchik, nadiaspeaks.com, and please listen, stay tuned, and be part of our community.